everybody. The video is coming if you are watching on YouTube. I'm going to do a quick intro because we are revisiting a great episode from the past, number 108. We are going to talk about one of the most useful questions, and we're revisiting it this week because I've had this conversation with about, 6 people in the last 5 days. So I was like, okay, we need to bring this question back to the forefront of our minds. What is the worst that could happen? I'm going to tell you in the episode a lot of ways this question will become useful in your day-to-day decision making. But I want to be clear. A lot of the conversations I've had with people in the recent week and also over time in my decision coaching utilize this question for big life decisions. I'm talking to somebody who's considering changing their entire business, taking a big, scary feeling leap, and what's the worst that could happen is one of the most useful and most critical questions we are asking in order for her to feel clear on her decision, set herself up with the best game plan. So do not sleep on this question. I know the examples I give in the episode are kind of everyday and they are super impactful still because everyday decisions add up. But I really want to encourage you to take this question and run with it. And don't forget, the Stop the Spiral workshop is coming up live online on July 11th. And then after that, you can get the replay anytime at kirstenparker.com/spiral. We are giving you the decision-making method for high-functioning overthinkers. This is going to help you turn right around from the workshop and immediately go into your life making easier, faster, clearer decisions. And how you engage with fear is a big part of that. So I'm going to try to make it as easy and simple and doable as possible for you. You are not going to want to miss this workshop. It will literally change the way you approach decisions for your entire life. Yes. Okay, that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the episode and talk about what is the worst that could happen. Have fun. Today, y'all, we're going to talk about fear. What again? Kirsten, we talk about fear all the time. I know, because it comes up all the time in decision making, right? My job as a decision coach is to help my clients, and by proxy, you listening to this podcast right now, improve their relationships with fear. And today we're going to use a super useful tactic that I used most days when I was just recently in Budapest, Hungary for 2 weeks. I found myself asking this question often: what's the worst that could happen? If you have been here a while, you've probably heard me talk about fear fluency, which is a skill that I aim to help everyone I work with build up and strengthen. Fear is a language our brains and bodies are speaking all the time, whether it is habitual FOPO, fear of people's opinions, fear of failure, fear of leaving your comfort zone, fear of doing something out of alignment with your vision, goals, and values. That stuff is happening in your brain and in your body all of the time. And it impacts our biggest and smallest decisions if we don't know what to do with it, if we don't speak that language. So this episode is going to help you up your skill level in your fear fluency. As I said, I was recently in Budapest for 2 weeks. My husband is shooting a television show there. He works long hours, so I was alone a lot. And I found myself having these moments of resistance. I was feeling very self-conscious, not speaking the language. And my manicure was getting old at one point. I never get manicures because I always use my press-on nails. But, I was gone for 3 total weeks. So I wanted to get my nails done at one point, and I was like, oh boy, do you just walk into a shop and see if they speak English? I was like, oh, I don't know if this is okay. And then even outside the language barrier, just being alone in a new place, it was easy for resistance to come up a lot, for little waves of fear to come up, like figuring out the train situation by myself. I'm resourceful, but there was still resistance. Like, wouldn't it just be easier to not go in the nail place and ask? Wouldn't it be easier to just not take the train? You could walk or just stay home. This is when what's the worst that could happen started coming up in my mind. Now, normally this phrase gets thrown around in kind of a throwaway, dismissive, even invalidating way. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Don't be scared. Shut up. Move on. That is not the spirit in which we are asking this question. If you pose this question to yourself in an honest way, inviting an honest answer, you can free yourself up to take bolder action, waste less time, and not feel like you are shoving yourself off a cliff in order to get yourself moving. This trip was a really great opportunity for me to pay attention to how often these little resistant moments can come up and how impactful they can be on your day to day choices. For me to want to go into this nail shop and have a conversation and feel this wave of fear like, what if they get mad at you? What if they don't speak English? What if they don't like you and they don't want to talk to you? And for that feeling to just make the choice for me, like, no, we don't like that feeling. Move on. Don't bother. So I want to invite you to just think through your everyday life. Think how easy it is for this resistance, this wave of self consciousness or cringiness or just a really strong no feeling, how often that can come up and how easily it can dictate what you do and don't do in your everyday life, kind of nudging your choices along through your day. You might be looking for something in a store and not being able to find it, but thinking about asking somebody who works there where it is might feel like bothering them that day. Resistance. So what happens? You end up wasting an extra 45 minutes of your life looking for the thing on your own. Or maybe your boss announces a new project in a group meeting, and afterwards you think, oh my gosh, I want to tell her that I want to be in charge of the project. But what comes up? Resistance, because your head is going a mile a minute. Well, if she wanted me to be in charge of it, she would have said that out loud, or she would have asked me. And what if I look some certain way approaching her? And what if, if that resistance comes up and dictates your choice and makes it for you? What happens? You either miss out on leading this project, which might be there for the taking, or you miss out on learning why she doesn't want you to lead it, which also sounds valuable. Or maybe you really want to take a trip to see the Northern Lights or see Venice before it sinks, or just see some person in your life who you want to see in the world. But a wave of resistance comes up when you even start thinking about that because it's going to cost time. It's going to cost money. I don't know how to figure that out. It seems hard. What happened? Potentially, you don't even give yourself the opportunity to think about how you would make a plan and solve all of these potential problems. And maybe years go by, no Northern Lights, Venice has sunk, you don't see your friend. This is why we want to get a handle on this whole resistance reaction pattern. We want you to be in charge. And the way I started thinking about it is actually imagining yourself walking by a shop window and seeing something that you might be interested in, be curious about. Reacting to this resistance that we're talking about and letting it just make the decision for you is like seeing something in that window and then slamming the door shut on your own face. Nope, can't go in, move on. Whereas asking, what's the worst that could happen in a genuine, honest way is like letting yourself go into the shop and browse, find out how much it costs, find out what else might be in here that I like. Asking the question going into the shop is not committing to anything, but you do get to expand your options instead of impose limitations on yourself, which lets you make a decision for reasons you like instead of an automatic decision for automatic reasons, which increases your sense of autonomy, being in charge of your life, which lets you see yourself as someone who has permission to go after what they want. Get after it. Imagine you're walking down this little European street. We're in Europe. Why not? Theme of the day. And it's just filled with shops. Imagine walking down the street, seeing glimpses of stuff you might like in windows and constantly pulling the door shut on yourself. Nope, can't. Move on. You're not just cutting yourself off from opportunities that could change your entire life. You're reinforcing a self concept that you are limited, you can't, you don't deserve it, not for you. And if you're a person who wants to enjoy your life, who wants to do big things, who wants to experience freedom and ease and feel comfortable in your own skin and feel proud of what you do and like who you're being. You are going to make it 50 times harder to get where you want to go if you constantly see yourself as someone who can't, who shouldn't, who doesn't deserve it. So we cannot continue to reinforce that self-concept. If you're going to get to the end of the street having bought nothing, we want you to get there by deciding consciously, this is why I don't want to buy that. And yes, I explored that option thoroughly. And here's my reason I like for not purchasing that. We don't want you to get to the end of the street empty handed because you decided, "Oh, I don't deserve to go in any of these shops. I can't get anything." So this is your homework this week. You get to go out. You get to hit the streets. You get to go to the grocery store. You get to go to work. You get to make weekend plans and you get to pay attention to when these little waves of fear come up. When does the resistance come up that makes you kind of close down or shrink inward, even if it's very, very subtle? And even if it's not a big deal, even if it's a manicure, but you get to ask, what's the worst that could happen? And you get to answer. I should probably say you have to answer. You're not allowed to ask unless you answer because we're not shoving ourselves off cliffs here. We're not saying, what's the worst that could happen? Just go in, just ask them, just speak up, just do the thing, just don't do the thing. We're opening the door and affirming that you have permission from yourself to go into the shop if you want to. We're giving you the opportunity that I gave myself to think about, well, what is the worst that could happen? Really? You go in, they get mad at you for trying to speak English and they don't talk to you, and then you leave and then you don't come back here. Okay. Wow, that was actually really helpful to think through. I think I could survive that and I don't have to go back here and I'll probably forget about it 6 seconds later. Great. Is that worth it? Is that worth it for getting my nails done? When you're in the store and you are looking for a thing you can't find and you feel this resistance come up, maybe the two salespeople are having some really intense looking conversation and you don't want to interrupt them. Let yourself just ask, what is the worst that could happen? There's no right or wrong answer. You could decide the worst that could happen is this person yells at me and I can't handle that today because I'm feeling super raw. That's where I am today. And I don't actually want to interact with any humans. Great. Good to know. Now you get to feel in charge of that choice to not ask for help from that person. But you might ask the question, what's the worst that could happen? And then you hear the answer, I don't know, they seem annoyed at me, but they show me anyway where the thing is. And maybe you say 45 minutes. That's the beauty of this question. You get to decide, what do I want to do with this information? You get to decide, is it worth it to you to save time? Is it worth it to you to reinforce this idea that you don't have to make yourself small and worry about bothering people all over your life? Is it worth it to you? Maybe all of a sudden you have a different answer to what you want to do next. Same thing with work. Same thing with what you're going to do this weekend. If you're going to say no to something that you're feeling pressured to do, or you're going to say yes to something that kind of feels maybe awkward and new, remember, we're not looking for a right answer. The right answer is not always push through the fear and do the thing you have resistance to. The goal is feeling in charge of whatever you do or don't do and feeling in charge of how you do it. You might be surprised at how quickly this feels effective in your life. You might find yourself encountering these little resistance moments and you might ask, what's the worst that could happen? And you might find yourself by next week's episode feeling times more in charge of your choices and feeling less in your head, feeling like you've wasted less time and energy being in your head about stuff, and actually have done more things, taken more action, and felt more in alignment. And that's what we want. So I think this is really fun homework, and you're welcome. Before we wrap up, I would love to share one of my former clients' thoughts on fear after we worked together. I think this is a really great picture of what we are going for. This is my client, Ariel. You can hear her on the podcast in 2 episodes because we did an interview, Leaving the Carved Path and Learning to Talk to Fear. And she also allowed us to put a coaching conversation on the podcast. So we have a whole coaching conversation about her feeling like the other shoe was going to drop and something terrible has to happen to balance the scales. Oh, so listen to those episodes. They are linked in the show notes. I asked Ariel to share her thoughts about what has changed since coaching together. And she shared fear is different. In the beginning, fear was so much about outside societal expectations and pressures, and it was very noisy and clingy. And now I'm living my life for myself. I'm doing the things I want to be doing, and they're brand new, so it's scary, but it's easier because I have less fear and anxiety in my day to day. When the fear does come up, I have more bandwidth and I'm not exhausted. I'm able to think critically and not become completely overwhelmed by it because it feels more rare than it did before. This is available to you. You can change your relationship with fear and you don't have to get rid of it completely. She said, I'm doing brand new things. She was literally building a business out of nothing from thin air. When I say literally, I mean literally. It's a brick and mortar store. And she said it was scary. So we don't have to get rid of it. We have to turn down the volume of the fear that's getting in the way for no good reason and wasting our time. When she was talking about the noisy, clingy societal expectations and the pressures, and also just the day to day fear we can live with and get used to. That's the volume we can turn down and help you fast track your decisions with things so that they just take up less of your time. So if you're interested, we should definitely be working together. If you're thinking all this fear fluency stuff, like, yes, I would love to waste less time being in my head. I don't want to be missing out on things that I don't need to wait 5 years to experience. We should be working together. So check the links in the show notes and make sure you grab the Stop the Spiral workshop. We are doing it live on July 11th. And after that, you can get the replay. This is a decision-making method for high-functioning overthinkers. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people-pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.